My hate watchers out there, I know y'all don't like me. Well, let me say this. You love to hate me. And, my reply guys and all those, the people that have done videos on me, the bottom feeding YouTubers, as well as the maybe person who writes an article or two tweeting about me or something. You see, yeah, I am very consistent on certain issues. And I think that is very important. You get those say you talk about the same thing over and over. And I'm like, well, there's a couple of reasons why I should do that. Number one, just because you are knowledgeable on my material, if you understand how any internet radio, even for that matter, works, you have to understand that you may be bringing in a new audience. And that may be the first time that they heard you because they discovered that video. But more importantly, as I always say, is I only speak on what I am knowledgeable on. I do not speak on things that I don't possess the knowledge to talk about. Definitely just because everybody else is talking about it, I don't feel the need to ever do that. I talk about what I want to talk about. And if I am going to put my neck out there to have some sort of, let's say, in your face opinion or position, you best believe I'm knowledgeable on it. There was a comment that I got that I'm going to talk about, and it's the natural progression. And this is what I stated. If you guys follow me on other forms of social media, you saw me post this. But this natural progression of people that actually listen to what it is that I'm saying instead of thinking that I have a position that I don't have. And, tokenism and tokenization, I've probably been the biggest channel that has talked about that and against that in various ways, talking about it in the comic book space. Defined it. I did a long form video on it. I gave you the graphics and everything, cool edited video talking about what tokenization actually is. As I use the term and all of that, and talking about race swaps, gender swaps, sexuality swaps, and what all that means. Now, to my hate watchers, they need me. And this can be probably said for the people that you argue with as well, if you're arguing with brainless leftists. And that is that they have in their mind a position that they need you to have in order for their argument to work. So it doesn't matter if you've never made that claim or if you don't have that position. They have no problems lumping you in with other people that may have made completely different statements from you. They have no problem making egregious claims about you or just flat out saying that you said something that you didn't say or had a position that you don't have because it makes their argument work. So for me, you have folks that, well, he is against black characters. That is a retarded assessment, right? Anybody that's ever listened to me knows that obviously is not the case, and it's never, ever been the case. I've never presented it as such. But you have folks that say that. Why? Because they're too stupid to actually form their own argument based upon something that I said. So they need to make it up. Natural progression is this right here. So this was a comment that I got on my video titled Race Bending Comic Book Characters is for Losers. And I did that and I talked about this. This is one of my stand-up videos. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that. And this young lady, this is the natural progression of if you listen to me. Don't think that I'm saying something that you need me to say because you want to be mad. Actually listen to what it is that I'm saying. This is what she said. At first, I was angry with you or with what you said. But after thinking about it and listening further about the development of black characters, I definitely agree. I don't want sloppy seconds, and I would like to see more development, more depth into black comic book characters. So I agree. Wow. You see what happens if you actually listen and digest my actual positions. The guys with the fist in the air acting like they care so much about black characters, they are a bunch of frauds. Despite me talking against tokenism as much as I talk about, I am more pro-black than they have ever been and ever will be. Because they love sloppy seconds of white characters. That is a fact. When they call you a coon, when they call you a house N-word or any of those terms, those are projections. That's their position. Why do you think these people are such advocates of Captain Falcon, rather? Even though he was an original character on his own. He didn't derive from another character. There was another Falcon in Marvel Comics. A lot of people don't know that, but that was completely detached. They were completely different. It was a completely original character. And then they made him in recent years. They made him Cap. He's now Cap again in the comic books. That is a demotion. That is not anything to champion. That is, they took an original black character and then gave him the sloppy seconds of Steve. That period. That whole, it's a mantle. How about this? You can call it what you want, but it shows that you only see legitimacy in white characters. Miles Morales, also known as Peter Parker, same thing. If you listen to everything that I've said about this character, it is factually correct. His origin story, for example, is the exact same as Peter in his universe, in the Ultimate Universe. Well, now he's in the main universe, but you get what it is that I'm saying. There is nothing from this character, including in his personality for that matter, that we have not already seen from a version of Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker. And his name, Miles, goes as Spider-Man. Sloppy seconds of a classically white character. We know who Spider-Man was. We know who the first one is. We know who he is, right? When I talk about these tokenizations, and especially the lazy ones, right? The lazy ones are the ones that you hear me talk about so much because they're so painfully obvious that this is a box to check, okay? And even with Miles Morales, if you actually look into what the editors and what the whole idea of him being his creation was, for example, it was literally to check a box. It's probably, of a lot of the tokenizations, one of the more obvious ones that, and they flat out admitted, hey, we have this biracial president now. This was back when the Obama situation was a thing. The Obama phenomena was a thing. We're killing Spider-Man off in this universe. Why don't the next, even though they should have just been like, I don't know, why does there have to be a next Spider-Man if they're going to kill off Peter? Instead, they were like, well, we need to take advantage of that. So why don't you have our most, I don't know, iconic character now be biracial like the president? It was a box to check. That's it. That's it. It was a box to check. It was a box to check. But it's tokenism. I have done videos before talking about characters that exist in Marvel and DC that I feel like they could further develop. I did that. I'm no longer helping them out, but you get what it is that I'm saying. I did that. They have massive encyclopedias, both companies, official encyclopedias, that I would not recommend you buy now because why fund these companies? But if you did happen to get one of those like I have, and I've showed those off, mountains upon mountains of characters that they themselves know that are of various races, Asian, black, or various types of Asians, black, whatever have you, they exist. They've probably created. They could expand upon those, but no, that would require too much work. And to those that champion these tokenized characters, they don't seem to understand what it actually is that they believe. And that is that not only that you just see legitimacy in white characters, we already know that. That's a fact. Particularly white straight male characters, you only see legitimacy in those. But you don't understand because you're too stupid to understand that you're being insulted and that you see these characters that have stuck around, even of various races, but these characters in gender, but they stuck around. You know, the amount of work that came, like Spider-Man didn't become Spider-Man when he was created, right? Spider-Man was decades of development before he became a mainstay, if you will. They don't put that same work into that original black character, which is why the palette swap is so attractive. It's lazy. It has name recognition, and your dumb behind falls for it every single time. But people that have listened to me understand that has always been my approach. And this is why I told y'all, with my upcoming, we'll show you how, since you act like it can't be done, we'll show you how it's done. She mentions the death. I believe that what she's talking about, and I could be wrong, but that comment that I'm referring to. But the depth I talk about is like, even sometimes you get an original black character and what they focus on. Black, blackity, black. Boring, long, extended period of time where this black character has to struggle with their race or some other it's not even believable for that matter. It's like a meme. It's a default. It's why they don't know what they're doing over there. Same can be said for like a gay character, for that matter, or a lesbian character. It can't be, well, this character is just cool and I don't know, that character happens to be lesbian. It's like, no, we have to make sure that you understand that they're lesbian, and then we're gonna have a long, drawn out, let's say, storyline where that's all they're struggling with. It's boring. And I've said this before, straight white male characters don't have that benefit. This is why they feel better fleshed out, because they are. Not because they're white or straight or male. It's because there's no social ill to fall back on at all. It's just, well, we have to be as creative as we possibly can to make that character stick. We can't rely on social ills like of racism and homophobia, transphobia, sexism. We can't rely on that. So we have to put our mind, thinking caps on and actually come up with something worth a damn. That's why they feel better fleshed out. It's not because they're white. It's because they happen to be that, and they know there's not a social ill they can fall back on, so they're at their utmost creativity. Well, these other characters, they don't get that benefit. And this is why I'm saying, dudes, listen, man. Even my hate watchers that are out there, stop being irrational and emotional and upset because, well, you think definitely politically or social politically I differ from you, and I may. But that does not mean that my arguments don't make sense. That doesn't mean I'm not well versed in what it is that I'm talking about. You just have to listen. You just have to listen. I get it. They're going to peg us. They're going to pull out their dirty tricks. And I probably shouldn't have used pegged talking about the sexuality stuff. So never mind that I said the Pride Month's over with anyway. Never mind that I said that. But you get what it is that I'm saying. They like to call us all sorts of different kind of like buzz terms, again, which they need to be true in order for their arguments to even be sufficient. Period. So listen, calm down, relax, digest the information, and inform a rebuttal. Not you being an emotional brainlet that simply wants me to be wrong. Because often you end up putting your foot in your mouth. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.